Hello. Now this is performance management paper, and today we'll look at section A of the syllabus. Section A of the syllabus is about information system. So this is what we'll look at today. I want to just make a quick summary of this section so that we can go into the major part of the paper, which is B, C, D, and E, those four sections. So let's quickly look at this. Remember what I said about section A? It cut across all the other sections because when I did the summary of the syllabus in the last video, I told you that this paper is divided into what is happening now, what we are planning for the future, and how we measure result of the future, result analysis, for the future, right? And to be able to assess now, to be able to plan for the future, and to be able to assess the result of the future, information is very important. So that is why this section A of the syllabus is pretty important, information management and systems, right? Right. So this is what I want to quickly address today. And what is information? Information is simply a process data. That is a simple way, yeah, to define information. Yeah. So you probably wonder what's data. Yeah, definitely data is, how do I put it for you? I'll say it's just a raw, it's raw. I mean, when you have a raw knowledge, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to you. You just have unprocessed knowledge, you have raw characters, right? To put it like that, it can be numbers, it can be alphabet, it doesn't make any sense to you, and that is data. But when those raw information, raw data, raw alphabet and characters and numbers in their dirty, unusable forms, when you now decide to collect them, yeah, you collect them. After collecting them, you process them. Then, if you like, you can store them or you use them. So use and store whatever you want to do with it. But now, what you're saying is that after you have processed them, they make sense. And when you do all of this, what you have, your end product is information. So your information is called a process data. That is the meaning of information. Yeah. And remember, the section is about information system. So information system is made up of two things. Very important. You're talking about information technology and information management. Yeah. So information technology is just about the hardware, which is the equipment. Which equipment will you be using to process the data, to store the data, to present the data? What equipment you want to be using? When you look into gathering the right equipment, what you are doing is information technology. But when you are looking at what are the policies, what are the guidelines, how do we communicate this information, where do we store them, who should have access to it, who should not have access to it, that is information management. So it's about the systems. Yeah, it's about the policies. Yeah, on how information should be controlled. Yeah, that is information management. So please understand the difference between the two, right? Because when you start doing questions and studying, yeah, you might see those words being used. And don't get confused that what is the difference between information system, information technology, information management. Information system is the umbrella word and is about what equipment are we using and how are we processing or communicating or storing the information. And both of them sit under this umbrella of information system. So please take note. So that is information system. But remember, I always ask you this question. Do you know why what you are learning is important? So why are we talking about information system? Why is it important? I've mentioned the first reason why it is very important. The first reason is because everything you do now, planning and result analysis, requires information. So, which means you need information in decision making. Remember, that is the planning for the future. Yeah, you need it in planning and forecasting. If you want to forecast, you need information, right? And even if you want to assess where you are now, you need information. Likewise, you can store information and make it a knowledge repository so that if someone comes into an organization today, you don't need to always look for someone to come and teach the person. You can actually just point that person into a place where information has been stored so that the person can log on or get access to that space and learn everything they need to learn about the organization, right? And likewise, you can use information for data analysis, and I will touch on that briefly towards the end of this video. Yeah, here you are mining data and you are using that to predict relationship or even make a decision about what you should do or what you should not do or what you should stop doing, right? So that is why information system is very important. So these are the benefits of information systems. You must know why. This is why, because of these benefits, right? But there's absolutely nothing with benefit that doesn't come with a cost. So you also need to learn what are the costs. Information is not cheap, it's not free. Yeah, you need to acquire the software that you will use to get information. You also need hardware. Remember, information technology. Yeah, you need to buy hardware, computers as well. Likewise, you need people, right? You need people. So for you to manage your information properly, you probably need IT department that are managing the equipment for you, that are also going to provide necessary control, especially for your confidential information. So you need people, and the cost of people is grouped into two. You have to train them. So there will be training cost. And likewise, there will be salaries. They will not do it free of charge. People don't work for free, at least from this part of the world that I know. So you're going to pay them salaries. So there's a cost. Yeah, and that is why, very importantly, before data is being converted into information, an organization must be doing what we call a cost benefit analysis. And what they are doing here is to compare cost with these benefits and asking, is it worth it? So if it is worth it, then that means benefit is greater than cost. So go ahead and convert that data to information. But if cost is greater than the benefit, then it's not worth it. Then you don't need that information. So you don't need to waste time on your data, converting it into a useful information. So take note of that cost benefit analysis is very important, and you can be asked in your multiple choice question. Yeah. One of the things that should be considered before data is being converted into information. Yeah. Cost benefit analysis is very important. And usually, what are the sources of information? Usually, it can be grouped into external or internal. Yeah, remember we said information system, you need equipment and you need to have a policy, which is information management, the people and everybody managing the information. The technology is the equipment you need. And once you have that, why do we need to even get information? Because we need it for decision making, we need it for planning and forecasting, and we need it for knowledge repository so that people who come into the organization or even existing people who are changing department or someone that even needs information can just go to a database and get information without involving any other person, and you can save time on that. Likewise, in data analysis, because with this you can mine data and see the relationship between data, and based on that, you can take a decision on what you need to do or what you need to stop doing. But it doesn't come free, it comes at a cost. What are the costs? You might need to get some softwares, you might need to get some equipment, hardware, and you need people to manage your information. These people have to be trained and they will also earn salary. So all of this is a cost of managing information. And before you decide on converting data to information, you must be sure that after doing your cost benefit analysis, the benefit is bigger than the cost. Now, where can we get information? We can get it from external to the organization, which is usually through the internet. You can get it from customers. You can get it from consultants. You can get it from even government and agencies. Yeah, different places where you can get information. And for internal, you can get it from intranet. You can get it from management themselves, provide information. You can get it from your financial statements. You can get it through different divisions. Yeah, and even employees. And all this information will be quite important for decision making. So remember, these are sources because you need to get information for you to be able to do planning, for you to be able to do results analysis, and even for you to be able to take care of yourself in terms of where do we get this information from? What are we doing now? Currently, this is our cost. How do we analyze those costs before we decide on what to do for the future? So very important to note those sources. Yeah. And they're all very important. And what are the advantages? Internal information are usually very cheap because most times they are free. External might be cheap as well, but most times it comes at a cost. Generally, it might come at cost. Yeah. Um, but this might be more reliable because it's external, depending on the type of information you are looking at. Because internal information can be managed with some politically manipulation. So you are not really sure whether it's fully independent. So yeah, you just need to take note of those intricacies when analyzing or trying to get information. And now, information controls. Because information is very important, we're not just going to relax and just let it be available to everybody or just throw it all around. So we need to manage information properly. Remember, technology and information management. So now information technology is about the equipment. Now we're looking at information management. So information management, one of the things we need to look at is how do we control information? And if I ask you, why should we control information? Very important because we may have trade secrets. Yeah, so confidential information. Yeah. So let's break it down so that you can relate with it easier. So you might need to control because of private or confidential information that we don't want to release. Yeah. Like you might have trade secret. Yeah. Trade secret formula. Imagine if your competitors get to know your trade secret, then you are done. So you don't want that information to be everywhere, right? So information might also affect your reputation as a company. Good companies keep good reputations, right? And likewise, you also know that information affect your share price. In fact, if you have done paper on financial management on efficient market hypothesis, the major thing that you are being taught under that topic is the fact that information drives the share price, and the type of information determines the type of the market where you are, right? So information is very important for share price as well. Yeah, if information is good, share price goes up. If information is bad, share price comes down. So you need to know how you manage your information and when it is released and how is it released, who is it released to. All of that you need to um, really take note of that. So this is why you need to control information. But how do you control the information? Yeah. So the first thing you must know is that a company that wants to control information must have, so all of this is must have to control your information. You must have what we call the strategy. So you must have a communication strategy. Here you are talking about who should have access to what kind of information. How do you communicate? What medium do you want to use? Should people be using mail? Should they be using their desk phones? Should they be using a broadcast to other staff? What kind of information should go in a staff broadcast? What kind of information should go into mailing system? What kind of information should just be communicated via phone? So there has to be a strategy, because where this is important is that you must picture even internal information as if it's going to get outside. So if it goes, this information gets outside, what is the impact on our reputation? What is the impact on our share price? What is the impact on something that should be confidential for us? So you need to have a strategy. And likewise, you must have what we call the legal and HR framework. Very important. So when someone is being recruited as a staff, they must be signing confidential agreement in their employee contract. There has to be HR policies in place that stipulates the consequences if you divulge private information. So these are must have. And likewise, you must control access to information. Access control. And access control is both logical and physical. So physical is in terms of lock the room where some information are stored so that nobody can go there. If you have a board, a physical, maybe like paper or a system where information is stored, you lock the door so nobody can walk into that place. And logical information is by using password to actually make sure that people cannot have access to information. It's important and very critical that people don't have access to information that they are not meant to have access to. So information is only released on a need to know basis. So very important to know why you must control the information and how you must control the information. Very, very important. Now, who are the users? Now let's look at the users of information. Yeah. So users of information can be grouped into three. And if you remember your business technology paper, this was actually also dealt with. So you have three levels of information users. The first one is the operational level. Yeah, these are the guys on the shop floor, the officers, the people that work every day who needs information. They use information to do their day-to-day activities. So usually this information is a very detailed information. Yeah, and an example is the what we call the transaction processing system, TPS. There are people that process transaction every day by day. They capture, they store, they batch data, they batch in processes, and they do a lot of routine transactions. Yeah, posting data and all of that. So these are operational level users, and you have the tactical users, which are the managers. Yeah, the tactical users. Yeah, an example is the MIS, Management Information System. Yeah, these are used in decision making, yeah, but not as detailed as the operational level. This is less detailed actually. This is less detailed, right? An example is budget review. Yeah, this is not done on day to day. Usually, this is done on a quarterly basis by organizations, right? So they are using in decision making, cash forecast, all of that, but they are not a day to day document. Yeah, but they are a bit detailed, but not as detailed as operational level, and they are used by managers usually. Remember, I said these are used by the officers on the shop floors. Yeah, these are used by the managers, and the highest level of these users is what we call the strategic level. Strategic level. These are used by the executives. Usually, you're talking about information maybe about the competitors. Usually, is about the external factors assessment. So this is very unusually done. It's not all the time you see this kind of information flying on around. It's not, maybe once a year or something you see it being used, right? So it's actually at a very high level, and this one doesn't have any details at all, no detail at all. It's just very strategic, very concise. And an example is your executive information system, which we call the EIS. Yeah. So those are the three levels of information that you must know, and they are being used at different levels, and they have different levels of details as well by different people as well that use them. The last thing I would like to touch on this section 8, which you must know, is the popular big data. Very important. Yeah, big data. And anytime you hear big data, it's about how enormous data are available. If you see the quantum of information that are available now, because people are doing so many transactions, buying, selling, the relationship between those people, the attribute of the people buying, the time they are buying, there are all types of information that are just available. Yeah, until a few years ago that this information have now been put into use, and people realize that wow, there's a lot we can do with this information. So this big data has now been very critical thing in decision making, because there's a lot you can get from the data that we're talking about. Yeah. And why is big data actually useful? Why are we using big data? Why? Yeah, big data. Why is this so much of an importance? Number one is because big data system, you're talking of the volume of transactions that big data can handle. This system can handle huge volume of data, because these data are so much available now that if you don't have robust system that can deal with them, you don't even know what to do with it, because they are so much. Yeah, so the volume, if our big data can deal with so much information, the quantum of information it can deal with, and not just deal with it easily and slowly, but it can deal with it at a very high speed. So this is about pace. So with big data system, you can actually make informed decision in just minutes, analyzing all the chunk, the huge volume of data that you have available. So that's about the velocity of making sense out of those data, and also the variety. So three V's. This is talking about types of information. Remember, I said even about the characteristics of the person buying. That's a type of information. The time they are buying, that is type of information. Even what they are buying, that's another type. So all those types of information, different types, big data can bring them together and you can make sense out of it. Like, I can give you an example. When Walmart use big data and data mining to actually rearrange the way items are being stored in their outlets. So they discover that when men buy children, because usually they discover men actually buy children items, yeah, more than women do. So they realize that probably the wives or the mothers of those children prefer to send their husband to go and buy those items so that they can take care of the kids, the young kids at home. Then they realize that okay, if I have a newborn baby that I'm taking care of, my husband has gone to buy these things. Poma discovered that when men buy those things, they also buy beer. Then the next thing Walmart did was to make sure that beer is stocked right beside Pampers, so that when men are buying Pampers, they don't need to walk and start looking for where beer is. They can as well see the beer just beside the Pampers. And just doing that alone, they recorded huge increase in the sale of beer, because some men could have come and they couldn't find beer, they left, or some would have come, they consider the distance they will walk to go and pick the beer, they left. But now, just putting it side by side, men that now come to buy the Pampers and buying the beer, and the sales of beer went up. That is using data in the system to make decision about business, and this has definitely increased their profitability. So big data extremely important, and something you have to take note of. There's a fourth V that was introduced, yeah, which you also need to know, and that is the veracity. veracity. And veracity is just talking about reliability, just to be sure that the data we are working with, yeah, is accurate and it is useful and relates to the situation on ground. Yeah. And because of that, if you are able to explain each of these, is something that you can be tested on in your MCQ, right? So what is the value of big data? Value of big data can never be underestimated. It helps you to process huge volume of data at a high speed, even different types of data, and also gives you reliability. So very important to know how that can be done. And the way to end it is talking about the data analysis, because this is how you actually make sense out of the data. So you can mine the data, get the data, and make sense out of it. So, and that has been used in different ways. You can use data analysis to identify problems. You can use it to solve problems. You can use it to even predict future. You can use it to identify opportunity, just like Walmart just did in the story I gave you. So that is it about section A. It's about information, and not just information, but knowing what is information system, yeah, grouped into the technology, the management of that system, and what are the benefits, which is why we need to have information system. And I've listed them, the cost as well. It doesn't come cheap, it comes at a cost. And cost benefit analysis needs to be done for us to decide whether we want to actually convert data to information. What are the sources? We have external and internal sources. They have the advantages and disadvantages. We need to also control the information to be sure that some confidential information are not leaked, reputation is well done, is well managed, and share price is also not going the wrong direction because of poorly managed information. And how do we do that? We need to have a strategy, we need to have legal and HR framework, and we need to control access. And who are the users of information? They are grouped into three levels. We have operational users, the tactical users, and the strategic users. And most importantly, big data is a game changer, because with big data, you can process huge volume of data at high speed, even different types of information, and get a reliable outcome. And that is it for section A. See you guys. Next video, I'll go into section C, and that is talking about moving into now, and that is cost methods. Start with ABC.